And we are live. Welcome back to this week's installment of the Mecca of Banter podcast. It's going to be a special one this week, folks. If you're tuning in, thanks for tuning in. This week, all of the Mecca folks are going to be on the same side. This is going to be your 2024 St. Louis City season preview. We're going to talk about the new kit release. We're going to talk about the incomings and outcomings who have joined the club. We're going to talk about our expectations, not only as a team, for individuals. We're also going to predict our starting 11 for the game upcoming versus Houston. But before we dive in, let's meet the fellas. I got to start. Hen, I'm not going to say my club's name on this because we're on the same team, so I'm going to let you say it. Hen, go ahead. Kick us off today, brother.
What's up, brother? It's your boy, Hen. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wine. It's a great week to be a St. Louis City fan. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. It's a great week to be a St. Louis City fan. We're coming live. We're a couple days away from getting back to City Park, and I couldn't be more excited. As Dobes mentioned, we're going to talk about the kit, but I actually got the chance to go down to City Pavilion this morning, see the kit in person, and just being back around that stadium got me so excited once again. So I couldn't be more happy to be here, and good to see you fellas.
I love it, Hen. I love it. I thought you were going to say it. I was kind of hoping you said it, but you didn't.
Hey,
it's cool.
Hey.
It's cool.
We're on the same side
Nikki,
today.
what's up, brother? How are we?
I'm very happy you didn't, Hen, because like you've all been saying, I'm very happy that we don't have to talk about the Premier League at all, and we can focus on the team that we all support together, which is St. Louis City. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Hafey4. I'm excited to dive into this. I know there might not be as much banter, but I have a feeling some people may not like my lineup towards the end, so maybe there'll be a little bit fun at the end.
I love it. And finally, we're going to kick it over to the man heckling the supporters, or excuse me, I guess the away supporters up in the second section. Our boy Hoover. How are we, brother?
Hey man, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Me and the season ticket holders are geeked to get back in the stadium. I'll be the first to say I'm super nervous. But I'm more excited. Yep. I'm more excited. I'm not going to let those nerves creep in on this. I am giddy to get back in the stadium on Tuesday. So looking forward to it.
I love it. Now, fellas, we sort of waited. And I'm going to say we waited because it sounds great. Let's just say we waited to do this episode until the kit came out. So the new away kit came out. The new away kit came out today. Sort of long been awaited. City's dropped some hints over the past couple of weeks. They're calling it the Confluence Kit. I'm quoting this here. It's inspired by the intersection of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. The kit's design represents the unity and energy that is flowing throughout our city. Extremely cheesy, in my opinion. But nonetheless, the kit is out, fellas. What's our initial thoughts? I bought one 10 minutes after it came out, so I'm clearly a fan. But I want to know your guys' thoughts.
Very, very cheesy, and I just want to add a little note. I don't know if this has any connection whatsoever to it being called the Confluence Kit, but the owner, Jim, who is the owner of Worldwide as well, Worldwide just signed a huge partnership with Confluence, the app. I have no idea if that is any correlation whatsoever.
That's a stretch. I'll say that's a stretch.
Like, whoa, like the Confluence, but whatever.
We get it, dude. You work at Worldwide. We get it, dude.
But I agree with Dobes. I absolutely love the kit. I love an all white. I know. I'm hoping that the shorts, did they release the shorts as well? I don't know if they did, but I'm hoping we rock some sort of all white because I'm a sucker for that. But I like the trim as red as well, but I think it looks good.
Yeah, dude, it's like a couple things on that. The inspiration that they have to have behind these kits now, it's just too much. Like they've made every single club. They made every single MLS club. They've shoved some PR interns in a room and was like, all right, figure out what this could mean for the city. Like, it's been with LA. They've all had some deeper meaning. Let's just let a kit be a kit. I appreciate the sentimentality and the idea behind St. Louis, but it's just a kit, lads. Like we don't really have to dig too deep. I really like it. And I said this on the Mecca Twitter today, but in a world of overdone, overdesigned, ugly MLS kits, it's a breath of fresh air to me to have a little bit of sauce, a little bit of class. It doesn't need to be the obnoxious first team kit that we kind of have right now, in my opinion. And that I feel all of the MLS teams are kind of trending towards. I saw the Minnesota kit today, and everyone's praising it on Twitter. It's
a Galaxy one or whatever it's called. Yeah.
It's a Galaxy print kit. I hate it. Everyone's loving it. I think it's disgusting. So I love the simplicity. Not to compare it to the United kit, but I do think I really like that Red Devil one that you guys have, the white with the red trim, and I think this is a great take on that. And I like the little, all of the confluence lines or something they say are.
It's the meaning of the rivers, man. Don't you see that?
Exactly. Every river is different, right? Or something. But I do find that to be kind of a cool touch that not one kit is going to be the exact same. Some of those lines don't match up. I think that's kind of cool. I'm a huge fan, personally. I like it. I'm going to buy it. I'm not sure who I want on the back yet, but definitely going to pick that one up.
Yeah, two things. One, I'm definitely going to buy it. Two, I'm impartial about the jersey. So, I'm going to spend money on it. Yeah, but, I don't love it as much as I love the away kit, that I'm wearing now. And what's interesting is, when you look on social media, when you look at kind of, the reception that it's gotten, it's literally split 50-50. Some people love it. Some people are very underwhelmed by it. Dobes, you put out a thing on our Instagram of what are your thoughts on the kit? And literally our responses are 50-50. I love it. It's fine. It's one of those things. But I think, you hit it spot on. It's simple. It can be elegant if it's matched with the white short. I think it's going to be awesome. The one qualm that I have with it, I saw it in person, the front neckline, which is a minimal thing, but the front neckline is super, super, super thin. And I hate that. I hate the way that the front of the neckline is. The back of the neckline isn't that way. It's a little bit thicker, so it's kind of odd how it comes together. But I think in all, on field, it's going to look cool on field. And then Berkey's new goalkeeper kit looks sick. The black with the little sprinkle of yellow in there, and then the flip with the yellow kit. I think it looks awesome. And definitely it was cool. I got to City Pavilion today at 10:30, and there was already so many people there. There were so many people trying it on. It's just cool to see how the city gets up for this kind of stuff. I imagine we'll see a lot of those jerseys in the stands come Tuesday. And it is really cool that St. Louis is doing free customization through the 31st of March. I think what a classy touch for the home supporters. We were talking about prices this morning, and the home kit's $160, the authentic one, but then if you want a player's name on it, it can go up to $200. But the fact that St. Louis is doing it free customization for the first month and a half, it's just a nice touch. So I'm also going to get a player's name on the back. I don't know who yet, but this will be my first St. Louis City player on the back, so it's kind of a big thing. But yeah, I'm on the fence. I don't know.
To me, and I hate to compare it to European, but when I see Spurs kits, the all white with the white shorts and the white socks, that's the cleanest look to me. And then you let the players sort of have their creativity to wear your lime green boots, wear sort of whatever you want. To me, that's just the most ideal kit. And yes, it does kind of look like the team that I support. I said I wasn't going to say their name. It does kind of look the all white kit that is my favorite in Europe.
Shocked that it was Hoover that said it first.
I know, bro. I almost was.
We're massive. We're massive.
Sorry, you mentioned my European team, so that you love their kids, so we're even.
So yeah, I mean, I think all in all, a lot of the reception is sort of mixed 50-50. In my opinion, when we see this on the field, whether you mix it with white shorts, whether you mix it with navy shorts, even I saw a couple designs with pink shorts. I still think the jerseys are gonna look clean. But moving on, sort of before we dive into directly to our expectations, this is going to be a little bit different for those of you that have been around with us since last year. Last year, our expectations were sort of set. We didn't know anything about the team. Essentially we were expecting, let's hope that we are competitive. Let's hope that we establish a style of playing. Last season, the City team was kind of sort of the darlings, exceeding all expectations, not only our expectations, but the expectations of, the media. I think what made this team so successful, and it's kind of what our expectations were, was, we want to see a culture, not only from the playing side, but off the field, from Carolyn, from Betts at the top, setting the culture, making the community around it. Then all the way to Lutz, sort of the sporting director, setting a style of play. Moving down to Carnell, we wanted to see a direct style of play. It may not necessarily be our favorite, but it's kind of what we wanted to see. Carnell and his staff sort of took this, and this is his words, not mine, this Ralph Rangnick approach to, we want to play pressing and counter-pressing soccer with the goal of making it extremely difficult for opponents to play. And it worked to a T. Early in the season, we went on a run. And not many people expected us to go on a run, but we became extremely difficult to play against. Most people, including myself, thought that, after the first 5-6 games that this was going to end after some key injuries, losing Klaus, all of this stuff. We all thought it was going to come to an end. But to me, what sort of gives me a positive moving to these expectations is the fact that the mentality was there. Even when things changed, we kept the style of play, even though I hate it as much as I do. We kept the style of play, and it led to a ton of success, a Western Conference regular season title. I think it's only right before we dive into sort of this year's expectations to look back at 2023 real quick, because it's definitely going to change how we view the season. So I have just sort of the records that we set in front of me. I'm going to read off for you all. I'd love to get some reactions, maybe you guys' thoughts. First off, the 2023 team finished with an overall record of 17-12-5 on 56 points. 56 points is the second most ever by an expansion team. 17 wins is the record for most ever by an expansion team. We tied for a best start, not just by an expansion team, but overall in the MLS with 5 wins in a row, matching the 1996 Galaxy and the 2012 Sporting Kansas City team. Then we actually did, of course, set the record as an expansion side for most wins to start a season, passing the 2009 Seattle Sounders. We also joined Atlanta United, LAFC, Chicago Fire as the only expansion teams to score 60-plus goals. And then, of course, we capped off an amazing regular season with a Western Conference regular season title. Of course, it didn't exactly end the way we saw it to, but I think, fellas, we can all agree, based off the expectations that we set for ourselves, we exceeded every single thing that we could and more. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts based off of that, just leading into this, but to me, it's like the expectations, if not, are even higher this season.
Yeah, higher for sure. Higher for sure in the sense that, like, I want to see more success in the postseason. And I do think that might come with limited success or less success in the regular season. I'm okay with that, I think, especially with the intro that you had of, like, we wanted to see a culture. We wanted to see an identity. We saw that. We saw that throughout the season. We saw things happen. But it also, when it came to these big moments, there was a couple moments where we looked like the new kids on the block. We did. We looked like we hadn't been there before. We hadn't played under the bright lights. We hadn't had that experience. And of course, we lost some guys, but the core group of guys coming back played a big hand in last season. So I think, to your point, exactly, we did surpass expectations. But it is interesting now that we've had a couple months away from the season, when reflecting on the season. Like, I don't want to sound spoiled or anything, because it was our first season. Like, we didn't know what to expect, but I almost look at it as kind of like a damn, we didn't do as much as we
100%.
could have. But when you phrase it the way that you just did, it's like, well, we did accomplish quite a bit. So yeah, it's like interesting now to look backwards after a couple months have gone by, but we did surpass expectations. It is true. We developed an identity. We developed an affinity for these players. We had our favorite players. We had our least favorite players. We knew what we wanted to change. Like, we definitely developed that culture within the city for sure.
I think the big key thing is, like, the experience is going to be massive. Like, It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but the experience that we gained from sort of that shortcoming at the end of the season, I think, is just going to do us that much better leading into this year.
Yeah.
Today's the first day that I'm willing to accept how great of a season last year was. Because like it took that long for me to get over the playoff loss. We were all, I know that we came back on the podcast after that loss and we're just crushed. But it's also, we also saw it coming. Like the last few matches, the last month or two, none of us were all that shocked at the form that we were in. But Jobs was right. The experience is going to be so massive. And the experience for Carnell, too. Like, he came out and said firsthand that he mismanaged that international break to where we went on this just devastating run of losses and poor performances. So I think the experience factor comes in all over the pitch. He's going to be able to take these one-game knockouts a lot more seriously. I think that will go a really long way. And you're right, Hen, 100%, that I don't even necessarily want to see the same level of success that we had in the regular season. Like, all I want is to peak at the right time.
Yes.
We saw Kansas City doing it. We saw Kansas City absolutely on a tear for the last 2 months. I don't want to sit in last place all of the regular season and then be biting our nails on whether or not we're going to make that 8th place playoff spot. But Yeah, maybe some more rotation this year. I feel stronger about our depth now than I did last year. Again, last year we can all say what we thought about it, but we had zero expectation. We didn't have any depth. We weren't meant to have any depth. We didn't know how certain guys were going to pan out.
We just wanted to be respectable.
We just wanted to be respected.
We didn't want to get smacked.
Exactly. So now, and for the first time ever, even after last year, I've got what I feel is the best starting 11. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I can now put pen to paper and say, here's who I want lining up in each position. We've got a system. We've got an identity. Like I said, may not love it. It's going to be narrow. But, if we're going to do it, then we better put the right guys in the right place. So, unbelievable success, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, we'll get to what we consider success later, but I've got some thoughts there for sure.
I think Henry and Hoove, you guys hit it right on the head, exactly how I was thinking as far as what we're expecting for next year and kind of how I want more from the playoffs. And yeah, the regular season was nice and all those accolades are awesome. It's interesting when Dobes was kind of reading them off. It was like, wow, like I was kind of having the realization and kind of similarly to Hoove of like, today's the day where I can finally be like, wow, that was an incredible season.
I can accept it.
Some of those points are actually outstanding. But I will also say though, like, yes, we didn't have an expectation. And I know we often had that whole new kids on the block mentality. I'm just nervous for this next year that is now gone. Definitely happy to get expectations.
I think the you're good.
The other thing that, the other part of it is also the experience of the stadium way surpassed our expectations. Like I remember being like here a year ago and talking about like the season preview, not knowing what, but like we were all so geeked to like be in the stadium together supporting our city. And it just kept getting better. Like every game, you could tell they were doing more. They were adding more to the experience, more restaurants, more this. Like, I'm obviously excited to watch the team again, but I'm excited to be back in the environment that is like City Park. And they created that. We created that. And I think that way surpassed my expectation when I look back on it. Like, I don't know about you all, but like every year Paige and I do like, what was the highs and lows of 2023 or whatever it was. And so many of our highs, so many of our favorite weekends or favorite days that we had in 2023 were spent at that stadium. So shout out to them for doing that as well.
Yeah, and that's not something we're going to dive into on this one, but it can't be understated to me or for me that the business surrounding the club was spectacular, top to bottom. Fan engagement, fan experience. The actual stadium itself is a freaking modern marvel. It's gorgeous. I could go on and on about how well the ownership group, how well the business management team, there's individuals that I really have enjoyed following from the club on social media. Peter Wood, I think, is the guy that runs the City Voice podcast. Yep. There's been so many good things coming from that. And, like I've mentioned probably 8 to 10 times in the past, I was a sports business manager back at Missouri State. So a lot of this sits even heavier with me at just how cool and how well that they've done. And even on the marketing video today for the Confluence kit, like I thought the video was excellent. I was really impressed that they avoided leaks. I was really impressed that no one took a picture of that and sent it to their buddies and it made the rounds on social media. So kudos wholeheartedly on all that. The number one thing that I'm going to miss about last year are the obscene betting odds that were in our favor for the first.
I knew you were going to say
the first 5 to 10 games. Your boy cleaned out his bookie wholeheartedly for the first 6 to 7 weeks. And if you don't think I'm going to bet on the money line and the over in every game coming up this year, again, you're wrong. I came out so much more positive than I did negative on that one. So looking forward to it though.
The highest compliment I can give is, and those that listen, I mean, you guys are my friends, like, and you know this about me, I can describe how skeptical I was, not just about like City, but the MLS as a whole. And the fact that I went from last year having like sort of dipping my toe in. Of course, I'm going to go to the games. They're in St. Louis. The tickets are relatively, not that expensive. You can go to the games. The atmosphere is sick. But the way that, like who have you said? The way that not only, of course, success like leans into that, but the way that you go to the game, the professionalism, how everything is, it's just so easy now, in my opinion, to be a fan. And I've 100% completely bought in to what we're building. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give to an ownership group, to a coach, to players, is that you want to support them and they become part of your life. And that's truthfully, I'm a tough critic when it comes to footy, probably more than any other aspect of my life. And the fact that I dove all the way in is just a compliment to the club and everybody itself.
The 180 you've done from our season preview last year to this one, I remember you saying like, well, guess I'm going to start picking up on MLS players to watch because I don't know a damn thing about this league.
Yeah,
I agree. That speaks volumes.
Yeah. But coming from this season, last season to this season, we're going to look a little different, fellas. We lost some key pieces. So before we get into our expectations, want to make sure we touch on the incomings and the guys that left the club. I think it's only right we start with the guys that left. Most notable, obviously, Nico. Left to Como, went to Serie B. Kind of a cool story. Guy gets to, fulfill his dream, dual national, partly Italian, something he's want to do. We saw center back John Bell move on to Seattle within the expansion draft. Had wingback Johnny Nielsen joining the LA Galaxy in a free transfer. Good riddance. See ya. Get out of here. Center back Lucas Bartlett and Jared Stroud joined DC United. See ya. Bye. Nobody cares about you. Isak Jensen. I kind of like Jensen. He's young. I know he's on loan, and I'm 100% going to butcher this name. He headed to the Danish Super League on loan to Viborg.
Nice.
Anybody?
Nice.
Anybody?
That right on.
Gundogan. And then finally, I think a key one I wanted to touch on as well is, we all love Miggy. We all thought he was a little bit, premature getting his minutes last year. He made as well. Is it Birmingham?
Birmingham Legion. Yeah.
Birmingham Legion. Transfer market just had Legion. So he's going to play in the USLC this year on loan, but can be recalled at any moment. I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on sort of the outgoings? Obviously, Nico's the key one, the key piece.
Yeah.
Tied for leading goal scorer last year. But any thoughts on any other players we lost?
I was really surprised with the Stroud one. I know that we had our own opinions about Stroud as a player, but when I looked at the makeup of the team, he played so many minutes. And then obviously Nico,
sure.
It sucks that Nico's gone. I liked Nico as that secondary striker. He played a huge role for us. But I look at every other name on that list. We called every single one at the end of the season recap. We knew Bartlett was gone. We knew that, Johnny Nielsen was never going to play. John Bell played twice for us because he wasn't it. We could just call it. So nothing really surprised me. Nico is going to be a huge miss. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't go out and get another forward before the season starts, or if we don't do it then, certainly in the next transfer window, getting another forward, because I just think that Nico is going to be a huge hole to fill.
The way, and this will sound weird, and I'm sure that some might not have the same opinion because he did score 10 goals, but we never really nailed down what Nico's best position was or where he played.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
And some of the goals he scored were, he scored a couple worldies. I'm not even going to front. So I think with that being said, the biggest issue is that we're losing such a skilled young player up top. But I think now if you look at the striker core in Klaus and Sam, Big Sam, where those guys are going to play, how they're going to play. So I think to a certain degree, first off, insane business from St. Louis City, picking up a kid in an expansion draft for free, basically, and then turning him around and letting him go pursue his dream for $2 million and potentially more if they get promoted. That's ridiculous business. Every penny of that transfer fee comes back to the club, and the club gets to use it as they feel fit. So while I'm bummed that he's not going to be here, I think there was a plan and identity in mind already with him going out before he did. And now, honestly, it's Sam Adrenan's shoes to fill. So that's going to be the biggest loss. you know how I feel about wingbacks and how critical I am of them. John Nelson, man, we saw it day one. I saw him touch the ball twice and was like, it's going to be a long season on the left.
Yeah,
and
literally.
right back. So
we saw him get beat in preseason against City that led to one of our goals as well. So
yeah.
I completely agree with Louven, though. I think the business that City did on a lot of these outgoing transfers was very
unreal.
I also think like great timing, like after the season that we had. Yes, we didn't have that great year in the playoffs, but like I think we were able to get good money and good value for a lot of them based on their performances that they had. I also, the one that I noted, and I think we've already talked about it a bunch, and it's also on, I kind of had him as like a star next to the person we wanted to watch next year, is Miggy. Like I'm totally going to be looking to try to find streams of those USL
see
games.
what he does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to see him try to command a midfield on a team like that. So he's definitely one that like I'm happy that he's going to get minutes on a different side so that I can watch and see how he develops.
I listened to an interview.
I'm glad too because the USL gives him the chance to play against. Sorry, bro. I'm just like, the whole when two people start talking on this thing, we do the it's like fuck it. I'm gonna own it, bro. I'm just gonna.
That's why I just start laughing. That's why I was like, just go ahead, dude.
Whatever, but playing in the USL in comparison to just playing with the MLS Next Pro team, like playing with the St. Louis City 2, such a better move for the kid because he's playing against actual adults. He's playing against actual men who they can bully him off the ball. They've been there, they've done that. And it's not just a bunch of 18-year-old kids like him, and he gets real actual experience. It's I don't know. I think about sometimes in Europe where, you have someone in the U18s or U17s or U21s, and then they go to a championship club on loan. It's such a better decision than just staying with the U18s or staying with the U21s. So I'm with you, Nick. And I know that you called it out 8 months ago about how he needs to go out on loan and get some experience. So good shout there. But I'm also excited for that. I do hope that he balls out. And this is just a great example of you're not there yet. Go get some experience and either prove it or we'll move you on, is what it is.
The sicko in me, I'm with Nick too, that I'm going to be trying to find these streams for these USL games because the sicko in me was watching Birmingham Legion supporters groups chat about the 60 minutes that he played in a USL preseason game, and we're very excited about what they saw. So, I'm pumped to see the development, like you mentioned in the Europe situation. If I wanted to go watch Alfie Devine, the Aloni from Spurs play with Portsmouth in the championship, I'm going to pull up ESPN Plus. I know that's there. I'm trying to track on my 18-year-old's, loan journey, and I'm going to be finding bootleg YouTube streams to be able to
some
see
shitty
him take
camera.
5 touches. Some mom literally videoing it side to side. I think that was the best move in terms of the squad itself and the outgoings. I think the best business was Nico. And back to the Nico thing, I'm just glad that we're going to give those guys a chance. We're not ever going to sit here and be like, I can't believe they're leaving St. Louis City because, I'm more than happy to be that jump pad from, lower level to us to springboarding someone into, a higher level quality of play. So happy about that for sure. And come on, Legion.
That's what I watched a Carnell interview from CBS because I'm an MLS fan. And during the interview, he made a point to say that City wants to establish themselves as a club that will, 1, let their players go, sort of live their dream, and 2, if you think of just any of our own clubs or anybody, you have to establish that relationship that you're going to be good at buying and selling players regardless. Reputation means something. The way that Lutz and the team approach business is how teams are going to expect them to approach business, moving forward, you know? And so the fact that we're willing to, 1, go find these players, develop them, it makes us a destination that's worth coming to. People will want to come here, play for 2 years, ball out, because then they're going to get their chance. That's a great segue, just leading into the players that we actually did bring in the transfer market this year. So looking at, I guess let's just start with the wingbacks. We're going to start with who's wingbacks. We all said last year that Like wingbacks was our weakest spot. So first off, we brought in 22-year-old Danish left back Nicholas Dyer from FC Midtjylland. Butchered that, I'm sure. From the Danish Superliga. Yeah, not too bad, right?
Manchester United rivals, baby.
Yeah, there we go. There it is. It was said for 500K. Now he is listed on. I'm looking at Transfer Market. He's listed as a left back, left winger, as well as a left forward sometimes. So we'll sort of see what he pans out to play. Then we also have 24. Then we also have 24 dual international, American and Norwegian. Transfer Market has him as a right back. FotMob has him as a left back. So we're just going to call him the utility man. Thomas Totland from Häcken in Sweden. We signed him for 455K. Then we brought in 23-year-old holding midfielder Chris Durkin from DC United for 278K. And finally, the one I have listed just because, we didn't sign him, but we did draft him. An MLS Super Draft, 20-year-old Japanese midfielder, Kojima, who, in my opinion, from Wake Forest, who in my opinion, I don't think he's necessarily signed, but in my opinion, I think could be a key piece for us moving forward. Who are you guys most excited about from this group? I guess I should say.
For me, bro, it's Durkin. The reason is from what we saw with him in the preseason. And I also want to let Louven have his wingbacks rant, but what we saw from Durkin in the preseason is he's not afraid to break up play. He also has a screamer in him. He will play a long ball. He seems to me like Blom, for example, especially first half of the season. Blom was breaking up play. He was here. He was there. He was everywhere. The only limitation to his game was he wasn't really a great progressor of the ball. Where Durkin feels like he is that guy that breaks up play. He's a natural 6, and he's not afraid to spray the ball in different places or play the simple, easy pass. So for me, it's Durkin.
Nikki?
To be fair, I didn't even want to take it from you, Hu, but I definitely think it's the wingbacks for sure. I will before, so I can let Hu take that. I am excited for the draftee. I think Dobes kind of hit on the head. If we do end up signing him, I think he could be a huge off the bench energy boost into our lineup, because what I saw from his highlights and a little bit of the preseason games is he has the effort. He definitely will like to put into a tackle, and I think he would be a good key off the bench.
Yeah, Kojima too, for sure. Before I take my piece, he was so calm and composed on the ball, and I think we'd mentioned it in a previous podcast, but I think he could play the role that we thought Miggy was going to play last year. I really do think he's going to have legs. Really, really smart player, simple, consistent, and we don't need him to be anybody if he does get game time.
Miggy went from high school ball to MLS. This guy had some years in college, played at a level.
Yeah.
He has a little bit more experience than Miggy had.
Nothing, and Miggy deserves 100% where he's at in his career, but you don't go to Wake Forest and suck. That's just not how that works. So, happy for him, and I hope to see him in the future, and I do think he could be one for the future. I think he's someone say 20 years old or only.
Yeah, 21, something like that.
Everything I've watched about Japanese footballers in Europe and beyond, I love everything about them. They're students of the game. They're simple, calm, composed, and I really think he exemplifies a lot of those characteristics. I'm going to talk about these wingbacks.
Come on, dude. Let's have it, bro.
I feel like you should get a jersey, and the custom thing on the jersey, the name should just be wingback.
Wingbacks. Just wingbacks. I know. I want to put Totland on a kit, but I've seen the guy play a collective 60 minutes in sketchy preseason Coachella Valley, views. So when he came on in the second half of one of the preseason games, he touched the ball twice, and a full tear rolled down my cheek. I was so happy to see a wingback with composure, the ability to get up and back. He's stuck in a tackle, and he can connect play. He's fast. The small amounts of things I've seen from him have me giddy. Because we said it already, the number one position on the pitch, every match almost. It didn't even matter who it was. We wanted Watson for a while on the right. We wanted Markanich on the left. We saw those guys too have their own individual poor matches, poor moments. This was the biggest pickup we could have made. I'm so excited for him, and I don't even know how we're going to use Dyer or Totland, frankly, yet, because we've got FOTMob and Transfer Market saying that they play 7 different positions collectively. So I just don't know where he's going to come in, but I know that he's going to be a huge part of it. Being able to use some width is something that I think is going to be so key for us this year because of the way that we've seen Carnell set these teams up. They're just narrow. It is what it is. You're going to get sick of me hearing that or saying that. But being able to connect play from those positions on the field was not something that we saw the entirety of last year. And to have some competent defending skills too. I don't have any issue with Jake Nerwinski's, defending ability. But as soon as he got on the ball going forward, it was like, all right, well, he's going to need to get back here in a second. Like I thought he has got a good cross on him, but outside a few of those things, it's just the most lacking position. So I'm giddy about him. I do have PTSD as a Spurs fan with a man in the back line named Dyer. That scares the crap out of me, frankly. But I'm hands down more excited for those guys than I am about anyone else. I think Durkin too, obviously, deserves a shout out. We didn't just send 275 for him. We sent 275 and Stroud and Bartlett. He's a 23-year-old, probably extremely fringe national team player. But one thing I heard or I read today that I thought was interesting was that he actually played with Klaus in Belgium.
Yeah.
Klaus was playing in Belgium. He was a teammate, and they were boys, from what it sounds like from Zhao. So his, nod of approval on Durkin spoke volumes to me. Like, not only is he a good character, which I think we've really kind of built the team around, and something that the Cardinals do and the Blues not as much, but the Blues do. We want good people. Like the culture needs to be around it. So I was glad to hear that. And if Klaus is a guy's a baller, I think he's a baller. He's got the most ball knowledge to me, with his experience in Europe, for him to have the grounds to say that. So I'm excited about the pickups. Man, we just needed those wingbacks, bro. I'm going to be so excited to see them streaking up the field.
For me, it's Durkin too, just because, and I know I've mentioned this in a previous pod after watching him play in the preseason games. Blom has some inconsistency. Blom, when he's very good, is very good. But oftentimes there were those games where we didn't play our best. It was because Blom wasn't necessarily playing his best. And I think Durkin's going to be that guy. One, I think there is a world where they can play together. But two, Blom has some competition now to where I think Durkin can play as that 6. I think he can play as an 8. I think he can play that sort of a hybrid role as well, to where maybe he can relieve some of that pressure for Blom and let Blom do sort of the dirty work. So I'm really looking forward to Durkin. To me, it's not necessarily all positive in terms of the transfer window. Like, obviously, we've done all of this sort of praising of the past season, of Lutz, of Carolyn, of sort of the whole team. From my perspective, I wish we would have done a little bit more in the transfer market. So with sort of having this sort of, I guess it's full roster construction that we have now, obviously, like Hoof said, we've seen 3 preseason games. We've seen 45 minutes of one lineup, 45 minutes of lineup, and sometimes 60 minutes of a lineup with 30 minutes of different guys. Is there anything right now before a game has even been played that you guys wish we would have done in the transfer market?
I think I said it at the end of the year review last time. I really wanted a striker, and I don't think we got one. Not saying that I don't believe in Klaus and Big Sam, but I really think if we added another maybe more quick, speedy striker to maybe offset one of them, as well as just add competition in that position to get all of those guys firing on all cylinders, is really what I wanted. And the fact that we didn't get that makes me a little nervous as far as like, if those two don't pan out, what are we going to do? But I still think it was an okay offseason, especially for our first kind of mid-season or first ever transfer season in between 2 seasons.
I'm with you wholeheartedly, and I'm going to piggyback and go one step further. A dynamic winger, I know, is what Dobes was calling out for. I'm watching us transition to the style of play that doesn't use dynamic wingers, which makes me nervous for our boy Celio. But you're right. I also forget that Rasmus Alm's on the team. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
I truthfully,
He's been out forever.
He's been out forever. He had a bad stint with injuries. And I never really got the full grasp of what he is going to bring to the team. But I think that player profile of his is something that I would have loved to see come in. Like you said, Nick, not necessarily another big striker, but a forward-focused player that is dynamic, is fast, can put in a shift and get up and back. I'm excited to see Alm come back because I think it's going to feel like a new signing. But yeah, 100%. That's the number one area of concern because we really did. We went out and covered a lot of the positions that we already were concerned about. Never in my life have I followed a football team and been like, all right, well, I know for a fact we need to fix this, and this position. And then they did it. So that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in world football. So
that's
for some clubs.
Spurs. I'll tell you that much. Yeah.
This is the first time in my Spurs career that I'm actually watching people come in and play the roles that we want them to. So they're doing it. I'm excited about that. Little nervous about up top, and I think the guy that we haven't mentioned that there's going to be a lot on the shoulders of is Thorson. So we're going to get to the individual names on the team sheet and give thoughts, but that's where I'm at with that for sure.
Anything from you?
No, same. I think that it's one of the reasons why Nico is going to be a huge miss is because he was that secondary striker that he could play a 10, he could play a winger, he could play the 9 if he needed to. I've said it for months. Sam and Klaus do not work with one another. They don't work with one another. They're not the right build with each other. I don't think Thor is that guy. Who knows? Maybe Alma's that guy if and when he ever gets healthy. But I think we're missing a true secondary striker. And the other thing that we haven't mentioned about Nico's departure, Nico won us a ton of free kicks. And sometimes it was annoying. Sometimes he went down too easy and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That man won probably more free kicks than anyone else on the field. And
those players are important, though, man.
Which led to a lot of goals for us.
Yeah,
totally.
He was great on set pieces. Tim Parker's big head up.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, how many Parker headers?
Yeah, so I think that is something that it's an underrated aspect of his game, but we'll be missing that a lot. And not saying that we need to go out and sign Nico Gioacchini, but get a creative player that can win those fouls, that's smart and can play off of Klaus, that can play off of Louven. That's what we're missing. We're missing someone to fill that 8 to 9 role, and that could be a 10. It could just be a secondary striker. That's what I think we're missing, and then I really look favorably on our roster.
I'm genuinely scared that we're looking at Klaus as the secondary striker now.
Which I hate.
That is my number one concern.
Yeah, that did not work in preseason. It's not good. It's taking Dobes, you talked about this last pod, but it's taking away where he's most dangerous on the pitch out of necessity, but it's just not good, bro. I think it's going to get really old really fast between those two, and yeah, we got to invest in that.
For me, my biggest concern looking at this roster, and yes, I get that it's important because we are in 3 competitions, but to me, it seems like we have a ton of players who can play a lot of positions, but aren't necessarily great at any single one, which can be a great thing. AZ can play winger, Thor can play winger, Klaus can maybe play this, Alm can play wide, he can play. To me, it's if you're not necessarily great at one thing, you're kind of average at everything, I guess that's a good thing for multiple competitions. But at the same time, I do think that most of these MLS teams you see, or just teams you see play all over the world, they have kind of that 11. And, when you play in big games, you have that 11, you want to change a key piece. But if a key piece is a 9 that's playing as a 10 or a 10 that's playing as a 9, that's a massive switch, not just in formation, but potentially how you play. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a little bit concerning just going into the season, looking at, we have a bunch of guys that can play a lot of different positions, but they're not really great at one.
Yeah, and I think it showed in how our season ended. Last year, we didn't have that 11 when playoff time came that we were all yes, we agree with that. Yes, that should be the starting lineup. So hopefully it's something that we can work on /fix this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll see. So moving on, we're going to talk through our expectations. I think it's only right we start first with sort of our overall team expectations for this season. Obviously, we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. The bar's set, fellas. We won the league. I think most of us aren't going to, or excuse me, won the Western Conference. I think most of us aren't going to say that that's a necessity. More than happy to go around individually. We can talk about individual competitions, sort of however you guys want to do it. But I guess, what are your expectations going into 2024? Obviously, we're in 3 competitions. We're in the CONCACAF Champions League, the Leagues Cup again. I'm in the league. So who wants to start? Happy to let anybody dive in.
Back to back.
Back to back, yeah. Let's win the conference. That is not my expectation. If it's yours, that's fine. For me, it's be competitive in each of the tournaments. So in the CONCACAF Champions League, I'm looking to get out of the group. The Leagues Cup, get out of the group. Last year we got destroyed in the Leagues Cup. And then I want to finish top 4 in the league, as you know, or not in the league, sorry, in the conference. Top 8, go to playoffs. Top 4 host playoff games. I think that top 4 hosting a playoff game, or like getting that, 1 and 3, because it's a best of 3 games. I think that that's success for us. Different teams across Europe and other competitions, like we see the strain that it puts on the team, that it puts on the players and the coaches playing in multiple different tournaments and multiple different formats. So I think if we can stay competitive in each one of the tournaments that we're in and then get top 4 of the conference, I think that's hugely successful. And that's from a regular season perspective. We got to make it past the first round of playoffs. Like, I think
I was getting ready to ask you that.
Yeah. Like, because the MLS is weird in that way of like, we had regular season success. We get a banner in the rafter technically because we finished at the top of the conference, and that's cool. But we don't do anything.
I don't want to be a club that hangs those. Yeah,
no, for sure. But what I'm saying is like, that's the way that the MLS operates.
Yeah,
we did receive that. So like, you can have regular season success. Yeah, MLS fandoms. You can have regular season success, quote unquote, in that regard, but we have to make it past the first round of playoffs. And for me, it doesn't even mean that we go and win the playoffs, that we win the whole trophy or anything like that. But you got to see progress. And for me, it's postseason birth. It's making it past that first round to show maturity, to show progress. That's what we have to see. And I don't know if I can call it a success if it's any other way. We could finish first in the entire league and get knocked out first round. It doesn't matter. So that's for me what success looks like. I'm not too concerned with like winning the CONCACAF Champions League or the Leagues Cup. I actually don't really care about either. I just want to stay competitive, show good progress, and like make it out of the groups of each one of those.
I think you hit it right on the head. Same with me, Henry. And the one thing that I want to like just reiterate and say it again is I completely think a win in the playoffs is that should be the expectation. Like the regular season can be us trying to figure it out, us trying to find the right lineup, whatever it needs to be, as long as we get into the playoffs and we actually make a statement and gain some experience in that aspect of the MLS season is something I think we should very much be focusing on in this upcoming year.
Hoof.
Give me a trophy.
I was about
bro, come on.
Give me a trophy. I'm not going to say a playoff win won't feel like a level up from last year. They've gone and just made me a spoiled football fan, though. So
yes,
give me a trophy.
What would be cool is that would be your first trophy in all of fandom ever. You know what I'm saying?
Ever. I'm 25. I'm 27 years old, and the Spurs haven't won one since I was 20, or since I was 2011 or whatever, when they won the Mickey Mouse. So, yeah, brother, I'm gonna need. I don't really need to see a trophy. All jokes aside, I don't think that is the only thing that would give me. It was better than last year. I want to see a playoff win. I want to celebrate downtown St. Louis at Maggie O'Brien's with thousands of my closest best friends and just rage after a playoff win. I think that's the benchmark. But for real, give me a trophy. We're in 3 competitions. I said it last year. I could give a care about the Leagues Cup. I think it's a cash grab. I think it's dumb. There is obviously a prize at the end, and you do get into the CCL and whatever. But we've worked ourselves into this position to where 3 years go by, lads, and we don't see a trophy. Like, I'm going to start beating the drum on we need to do better. So
Yeah, we need to
my
change.
thought is
Yeah.
set this expectation now. We have no reason not to think we're going to be one of the best 8 to 10 teams in the league. I truthfully think that we top 4, I think, in the conference is a perfect expectation. I want to have home field advantage for at least one match in the playoff schedule. We're just not far off from me being like, I want to raise silverware. So I'm going to set that now. Like that, at the way that we saw it go last year, if there's any regression at all, we're going to be pissed. So where do you go from there? Up. That's it. That's the only way. We're not going to win the CCL, right? I wholeheartly don't believe that. I don't think we win the League's Cup unless they rig it again, keep it all in North American soil. There's a chance that you take, a Club America or something like that on the run. But winning a playoff game, that's number one. That's elite tier for me. I was so unbelievably devastated at the end of last year, and I saw it coming. That I just don't want to crash out like that again. I want to get beat by, a comfortably better team, not the 8th place team that won their last match day to sneak into the 8th place spot. Like, obviously they were on a surge, but I want to see competitiveness and fight in all 3 competitions. Trophies Dreamland, but we weren't that far from Dreamland. At the end of the day, we're pretty close. But, we relate it all back to the preseason and what we saw and what we think is going to happen. I'm still nervous. Like, I'm not confident that we're going to come out of the blocks like we did last year. I'm not confident that we're going to make it out of the groups. But they shot themselves in the foot if they were worried about building expectations for the fans, because I want to see Berkey lift a damn trophy.
Yeah.
To me, fellas, it's very tough to gauge expectations just because these are literally polar opposite seasons, in my opinion. Like last year, we had 0 expectations. Half of the media expected us to finish last. Even when we were going on this magical run, everybody expected it to end. We had no pressure on us at any point. Even if we got knocked out, we're the new boys on the block. I think we had a title of this podcast. We're the new kids on the block. We had no pressure. And again, I listened to the interview with Berkey that did on CBS. Again, go MLS. That he sat there and he talked about their 3/4 of the season, and these guys are talking about the records that they can break. And that to me is not necessarily a mentality that says, hey, we're going to go on and win the league. Hey, we're going to go on a deep run in the playoffs. That's saying they're exceeding expectations. They're kind of happy with exceeding expectations, and therefore we're kind of happy with last year. So to me, obviously, I think I'm happy with the top 6 in the league. Like, I think top 4 is great. Top 6 to me is definitely doable, mainly because everybody wants us. Everybody wants to beat us. We're the top dogs. Everybody wants to come at our place. City Park's a tough place to play. We're going to get everybody's best shot. Not that we wouldn't before, but now everybody wants to beat us. Just think, if somebody wins, City wins the league, they're the standard, right? They're the standard throughout the entire league. And so that's where I think we'll be better equipped to deal with those expectations because we've dealt with it through last year. Now we sort of know how we have to approach it. But to me, within the league, it's kind of top 6, and I think you have to win a playoff series. I don't care if you're at home. I don't care if you're away. I think you have to win a playoff series. We have the experience. We were at home. Those players sit there. It's that cheesy, seeing Stephon Diggs sit there and watch Patrick Mahomes watch the confetti down, all that cheesy stuff. We have those guys now who have been there and done that and realized that even if we win the league, the regular season, it doesn't matter. So to me, top 6, but being able to peak towards the end of the season is what I think, as crazy as it is, means more to me.
Yeah.
100%.
To me, you might as well throw in the League's Cup out the window. Truthfully, it's like, I think it only kind of means something a little bit because Messi won it last year.
Yeah.
Like if Messi doesn't win that last year, I don't care about it all. To me, it's kind of like a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, whatever you want to call it. To me, the CONCACAF Champions League is where I want to see us do a little bit of damage, though. Because truthfully, this is our chance to – I know it's not the world stage. I know it's not as big as the Champions League. But this is sort of our chance to be like, all right, we're going to play against these top teams from around North America. let's do some damage. Like let's prove to people, and like we can start next week against Houston to say, hey, we're here. But making a deep run in the CONCACAF Champions League, to me, it's like we may not win the league. If we do win the league, fantastic. But if we don't win the league, you guys can't sit here and say that if we win the CONCACAF Champions League, that we're not going to be on top of the world.
God, I'm stoked, bro.
So that's where it's like I think a trophy is huge, but like a deep run, I'll be happy with. League's Cup to me does not matter at all. And I think top 6, top 4 in the West, and then winning a playoff series. That's gold. Second season, we don't really necessarily know what we have yet in terms of how we're going to look, but to me, that's success.
Dude,
now I know. Go ahead, Hoof.
Dude, if you're telling me that we win the CONCACAF Champions League and we're not taking an away day to Abu Dhabi to watch them play Man City.
Absolutely, bro.
I'm emptying my bank account to go see the lads play Kevin De Bruyne. Like that's elite. You made a good point too about the target on the back thing. We hung 10 on Austin last year. You don't think they're gonna want to come back and just beat the snot out of us?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That happened to so many teams. What, Nick?
I said Kip Keller's going to have a hat trick.
Kip Keller lost his MLS career.
Oh.
Now, I know that us in the group chat, and I know Hoove and I specifically have talked about it a little bit. Coming into the season, the expectations are high because of what happened last year, but I don't necessarily think it's all like, raises and rainbows coming into this season. I think a few of us have a little bit of concerns about the roster construction, what it's going to look like, how we're going to play. I'm happy to go first. I know Hoove has some stuff he wants to get off his chest as well, but Nikki, Hen, I know there's definitely some concerns coming into the season.
Yeah, I think it's how we ended the season. All of us were very confused as to what we were playing and how we ended. So definitely coming into a new season, you're a little concerned because I think a lot of the times when we had some of those hiccups or bad games, like I said before, we kind of use the new kids on the block excuse. I also think being the new expansion team helped us out a lot in some of those games as far as like the crowd being behind it, just the whole like persona / motive behind that, I think propelled us to win some of those games. So I'm definitely nervous coming into the season. We don't have that backing a lot of these when it's 2-2 in the 80th and we need Klaus to do something and score a goal. Like I'm hoping we can continue to do that, and it's the same motivation and energy that we were having last season.
Yeah, I'll keep mine short. I am nervous. I think the number one thing is I'm nervous about scoring goals. I already mentioned what I thought about the striker position not working and not having a secondary striker. I'll say that, is what it is. I feel a little bit more solidified in the center midfield position. We could even see someone get injured in the center midfield position. I still feel fine about our depth there, but that's really it in terms of depth that I feel confident about. And then, Nikki, to your point of like that mentality of like, who's going to be the guy that steps up when things are hard or whenever it is, if there was already complacency creeping into the locker room last year when it was like, look at all these things that we can break or these records that we can break, or people feeling like maybe they've already made it when they haven't. Like I'm nervous more than anything about the complacency
100%.
In the locker room of these guys thinking that they've already done it. And I think that it could be a massive regression of a season. And I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but man, I don't know the conversations going on inside the locker room, but if I were in that locker room right now, I would be banging that drum of like, you haven't done shit yet. You haven't earned anything yet. Like you still have to come out there and it's like a new manager bounce. You can win a game, you can do well for a season, but Claudio Ranieri got sacked this season after that they won the league. It's like, it just is what it is. So you gotta figure that shit out. So that's what I'm nervous about. And yeah, that's all I'll say.
And Nick said it, the new kids on the block thing helped in the sense that I thought a lot of teams didn't take us seriously. Through
100%.
Not even through the first 5, through the first half of the season. I think a lot of teams were like, they're not going to keep getting these lucky goals. They're not going to keep,
getting the back passes to our forwards.
Yeah, I think there's that played a role for sure. So we don't have that anymore. Everyone knows how good we were and how good we can be. I'm nervous about that. I'm just still, we're gonna say this a lot, and I know Dobes feels the same. He mentioned it, but I'm just not sold on the formation and the tactics. We're not gonna get different formations or tactics, though. I think there's a world where we could maybe switch to a 5-back, more of a 3-back thing with Dyer and Totland, which makes me feel okay because those guys are competent. But every time we played a 5-back last year, it was absolutely disastrous, miserable, some of the worst football I've ever seen. So
Yep.
The concern is the approach to matches. I'm all for taking the approach of we're going to play you the same every week, doesn't matter who you are. I love it. I think there's something admirable about it. But when you look at an Ange Postecoglou Spurs, they're really good at it. They do it well. We
need a Spurs mentioned counter on the top right here.
I think we're on 3 or 4. Yeah. They just, what's going to happen, and the other team knows what's going to happen, and they're going to do their best to try and negate it, but it doesn't always work. I think we got figured out. I think we got negated. I think the game plan, a lot of times, even if we are taking that approach of, press, sometimes people figure that out. They set up well. They know how to defend it. They know how to counter it. So that is truthfully my biggest concern. I don't have an issue with Carnell signing an extension. I think
he earned it. He 100% earned it.
He earned it. Yeah. I think he's a great leader. I think there's a lot of qualities to really like about him, and I think the guys like him, which is seriously at the end of the day the most important thing. And everyone's bought in. So as long as those 3 pieces carry us forward, I think we're going to be okay. And Roman Berkey's not going to be cool with no shit. He's not going to play no games this year. At the end of the day, he's a freaking competitor. He wants to win. He wants to lift trophies. He's lifted trophies. He wants to do that again. He knows how important it is to the city. Everything he's mentioned in the media is just, glowing admiration for us and for the fans and for the city and for the team and for the buildup and how it all's come together. I don't think there will be as much complacency this year just because there can't be. There's not room for it in the locker room. We've got pundits saying we're going to be okay. We've got pundits saying we're going to be bad. I think they blocked that all out this year, and I think he's going to be the key piece and leader in the locker room to make sure that we don't lose sight of what's important.
Absolutely. I'll kind of piggyback off Hoove. Truthfully, my biggest concern kind of surrounds our back 4, I would say. And I think the reason being is because we are adding new pieces to as wingbacks. We saw Nielsen and Parker last year who weren't necessarily great together, to be honest, in the games that we played. And then you add wingbacks. It does take time to understand when a wingback's going to go forward, when they're going to step up. And yes, that can be coached throughout the season, but that's a main concern to me. And truthfully, I'm going to be honest, just like I would be with the team that other team that I support. I'm a little nervous, for Carnell, and I truthfully mean that because I sent this to Louven and Hen the other day. When you look at our expected points based off of last year, we were 14th in the league on expected points. So we won a lot of games that we probably didn't deserve to win, and that's already concerning itself. But to me, Carnell, when you look at some of the best managers in the world, everybody knows how Manchester City's going to play. Everybody kind of knows how Liverpool's going to play. But the thing about what they do so well is you look at a Liverpool, they press, but they pick their moments to press. They don't come out in the first 5 minutes of the game and press every single time. Some moments they'll keep possession. And this is where I get a little bit about concerned about Carnell. It's maybe some games, let's start out the first 10, 15 minutes. Let's look like we're going to possess the ball a little bit. Let's keep the ball. Let's play. And then all of a sudden, let's have that. Let's get to 15-minute mark. Let's get that high counterattacking press going and catch teams by surprise. Because everybody now is going to come into the game being all right, St. Louis City is going to go balls to the wall, pushing us forward, going to make it tough to play. And eventually you can be figured out. These players, even though the MLS isn't the best league in the world, they can still play. You watch an LAFC play. You watch how Sporting Kansas City played us. These teams that can keep the ball can break down a press. And my concern is, can Carnell figure out how to get through those moments? Can he put the right players in the right positions to be able to break down teams in different ways than just score goals by a Kip Keller back pass or set pieces. Like those are great ways to win games. And at the end of the day, you have to have the mentality to do that. But to me, that's also a concern is can we replicate that? Because now teams know exactly what to expect from us.
I love that Kip Keller just catches strays on this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Months,
St. Louis boy, I'm sorry, dude.
I also just want to hit it again. Dobes as an MLS fan has come so far talking about how he plays and shit. I'm like, oh my word, Dobes.
It's those minor adjustments.
I'm jacked. Yeah, it's the minor adjustments that make teams great. Like you can have all of the best players. You can have look at Inter Miami right now, and this is not a great comparison, but like if you watch some of the preseason games, they have arguably the 5 best players in the MLS, 4 best players on paper in the MLS. They have looked terrible, and Tata has not figured out a way for them to play. And he's a top manager. He might be the top manager in the MLS in terms of what he's done. Carnell will gain a ton of experience from last year and kind of what we went through. But I'd be lying if I wasn't say I was concerned that is he going to be able to figure out how to put the right pieces in the right spots? All right. Go ahead, Hen.
Well, I was just going to say, I know that we're going to dive into these individual perspectives of we have a couple questions here and not to jump the gun on this, but you asked one of the questions of who's on the hot seat, and Carnell's actually on mine.
He was on mine too, for sure.
So, a couple weeks ago when it was announced, on the pod, we gave him props on him on getting the extension. You said it's deserved. I don't know, man. There's no doubt that you achieved the success that you achieved in the regular season. It's great, surpassed expectations. To me, I'm but we didn't need to give him an extension yet. He
was only on a 1 year.
I thought he was on a 2.
No, he's on a 1 year. We had to.
My bad. I thought that he was on a 2, but for me, he is on the hot seat. Those little adjustments that need to happen, I haven't seen him make those. And, if we want to have that success, if we want to figure that stuff out long term, he does have to figure that out. So great, had a good first season. And now that I know that he was on a 1, cool, earned your extension there. But for me, this is the make or break season of is he for real, or was it this new team, new kid on the block mentality? But he's actually leading the line on my hot seat thought.
I love it. I mean, that's a great transition into sort of our individuals here in terms of, individual expectations. I guess we just start there, obviously we've seen the roster construction. We've seen the players that played last year. I don't think we necessarily can include sort of obviously the newbies in the hot seat, but Hen, from your perspective, what player, I guess, is on the hot seat in terms of you need most to deliver this season?
I have 2. I have Klaus and Blom. So Klaus, he established himself as one of the sweethearts and one of the darlings of the team early on, but then he was injured for the majority of the season. He comes back and gets a major injury again this season, or he doesn't deliver. You're just looking at a guy who should be performing better than he does. And you don't want to just have the guy who's leading the line underperforming and just not doing it. We don't need that from our guy. So I think he's up there. And then Blom, from the consistency standpoint, you mentioned it earlier, when he's on, when he's not on, man, it can be really bad. And I think he's also one of the guys that he needs to figure out what role he wants to play. Is he going to be that 6 who deserves to start every single game because the consistency is there? Because if not, you got to go somewhere else. You can't show up and be inconsistent. So I think saying someone like Jake Nowinski is an easy route because obviously he got, we signed a guy to replace him and whatever. But to me, it's Klaus and Blom of they're supposed to be 2 of our dogs. And if you're not performing, you got to move on. You got to look elsewhere. So that's for me, between Carnell, Klaus, and Blom, those are my 3 hot seats.
I think
Vic?
No, Hoove, you can go.
I have 2 names here, and I thought of a third one. I think Big Sam's got a lot to prove this year. I think not only is he filling in a 10-goal scorer season for Giacchini, we sent him out on loan last year. We pulled him back from loan. He scored some big striker goals. There's no way around that. But for me, you have to improve on what Nico did, that to be able to call yourself that certified, starter, striker, or something like that. I think that he's going to need to add a piece or two to his game. We know what he's got. We know he's big. We know he's a demon in the box. We know he's fast as hell, and he'll beat anyone on a one-on-one sprint. We've not seen him take someone on. We've not seen him link play well. We've not seen him, excellent on the ball or anything like that. So I think he's going to have some pieces like that to improve on. And my other one is interesting because he didn't really get a ton of clock last year. But Thorson is just an enigma to me. I don't know.
I'm not sold.
I'm not sold. I don't know what his position is. I don't know where he plays his strongest. I don't know if he knows where he plays his strongest. I'm curious to see not only his usage and his minutes, but how he connects with other players. There's not a ton of things that I can sit here and be like, I love this, this, and this that he does. And that's partially from a lack of seeing him in general. He just didn't get a ton of clock last year. But when he did, I just didn't see a ton of production. He's a tall, lanky winger, from what I understand, but there's not too much to build on to be like, here's what he should do. I don't know what he should do. I don't know what he's going to play. I don't know where he's going to play. I don't know how much he's going to play. But I'm curious to see his progression, and I'm curious to see even where Carnell decides he should play. So that one's going to be the most interesting one to me. Every other guy that we list, we've got okay, here's what they did right, here's what they did wrong, here's what they should improve on. I don't know those answers for Thor. So curious on that one, definitely.
Nikki?
One thing I'm finding out is apparently a lot of players on our team are on the hot seat in our eyes because all of us had different ones. So that's kind of interesting.
Mine are different too.
Yeah. And to be fair, mine's kind of a tour because it goes with the who am I looking forward to playing or watching play this year. And I think I kind of said on the last podcast was the center backs. I really want to focus on finding that partnership for us this year. And obviously as a center back myself, something I look at is positioning and stuff like that. So the person I think that's in the hot seat is Parker. I've said it for a while. I'm not thoroughly impressed by him. I think he's a perfect player for an MLS fan. He's loud. He scores header goals. He puts in a very hard challenge. But the technical side of the game, I really want to see him improve on as far as his positioning, being able to pass out of the back, stuff like that. So I think Parker is kind of on the hot seat for me this year because I'm going to be looking to find some, and I'm acting like I have a decision in who's going to play or not. But I think the center back partnership should be something that Carnell is looking into this season.
Yeah, for me, it has to be Nielsen.
Good shout.
And the reason being is because he's a DP. He's one of the guys that we're giving a ton of money to.
You're right.
Last year he came in with Parker and it didn't really work out. We need him to I think we can all say truthfully, Parker kind of exceeded our expectations last year, at least in my opinion. He scored goals, but to me, Parker has MLS experience. And if you pair him with the right person, I think Parker can be a great center back. Yeah. And I'm not sold if that's Nielsen, to be honest. I'm really not sold on, we saw him hurt for the majority of the season. We I don't know if we built him up just because he was a DP, Swedish international, that he was going to be the second coming of Christ in our back four, but truthfully, that's kind of how we thought about him. And then he came back and he didn't necessarily live up to that hype, in my opinion. He's a solid player. We never really figured out the back four, but I think if we're going to be successful, I do like Yarrow. Of course, friend of the pod. But I think if we're going to be great, we need Nielsen to be a dog. We need him to be a day in, day out. We need our best 11. We need Nielsen to be in there. And my second one, I'm kind of piggybacking. I think, Hen, did you say Big Sam? Or who did you say Big Sam? Big Sam, to me, it's he had that sort of benefit last year where we sent him away. He came back. He sort of caught lightning in a bottle and was like, all right, I'm going to score goals. I'm going to earn my spot. Now that you have the spot, you have to keep it because if Klaus doesn't come off on fire, doesn't score 10 goals this year. Like, dude, we're turning to you. Like, you're our next hope, brother. And if you don't find a way to step up and score goals, who is? Because I don't necessarily know who else is going to score goals, which is another concern. Nick, you are so right, dude. We have eight different players.
Yeah, that's the starting 11 right there, fellas.
Oh my!
I was about to say, I think Louven's on the hot seat too. Like, throw that name in there too. Like, the man needs to score some goals and get some assists this year, I think.
Or play in the position that he wants to play. Good Lord.
I think hot seat is one way to describe it, but some of your other questions on here, Dubs, is like, who needs to step up? Or like, if we're going to see success, who's it going to be? And like, it's funny, like, that's where I put Louven. Like, if anyone is going to have a successful season and it's going to be the impact, that's where I have Nielsen and that's where I have Louven. And it's the consistency thing. Like, if we can nail down, if Parker can stay at the same level as last year, not asking him to be any better or regressing at all, if he can stay exactly like he was last year, and then we add Nielsen to come in and make a huge impact, I think that that's what it will take. And then Louven, like, he also had a pretty big inconsistency like the second half of the season. So love the guy, but post-injury, he fell off pretty hard. And I think he was one of the first people, again, love the guy. He was one of the first people that I saw like towards the second half of the season feel like he wasn't making the same impact. And like against Kansas City, he ghosted completely for 2 games. And like, so he's not on my hot seat because I think he is a quality player, especially with him getting his green card. That's going to extend his contract for sure. But he is someone that if we're going to be successful, we have to play through him. So it is interesting. Some of those guys are just filling different questions for me.
The people that we've mentioned, the players that we've mentioned that the DPs, the high-powered guys that you need to perform. Klaus, Louven, Nielsen. All 3 had severe injuries last year. One of them, in Nielsen, was expected to come in halfway through the season after an extremely severe injury and immediately start.
He was out like a year.
He was out like a full year, almost like 14 months or something. So to expect him to come in and have a partnership and read the game at the level that I think we can, I think that he can. I think, one, all 3 of those guys stay healthy. I think we see the benefit of that. 2, I think Nielsen getting a preseason, getting a run of games, getting in the building and playing hot off the press. I think those are all just immediately positive things that we didn't have last year. So I'm not necessarily saying that they're not on the hot seat, but I think all 3 of those factors contributed to the downgrade and the regression that we saw over the course of the year. So my hope is that he's had a preseason. He's played with these guys long enough now. He knows these cats. He knows the style of play. He knows what we're doing. I'm hoping that European, style center back comes in and fills in really well. The on paper, that partnership makes the most sense. Nielsen,
perfect sense.
Nielsen, a little bit speedier, a little bit more defensively aware than Parker.
Better
but Parker's better on the ball, but Parker's going to throw bodies. Parker's going to get stuck in. Nielsen will be able to swing the ball out and find passes. On paper, that makes the most sense, and it should be fantastic. So I'm crediting that disappointment with the injury and not having time and needing him to perform immediately. So that's my take there, and I've still got really high hopes for him. He's not a Swedish national for no reason, and I'm just hoping that you bounce back from the injury for real. I think that's what took away from those 3 guys as a collective last year.
Nikki, in your opinion, and I know Louven and Hen kind of touched on it, Nikki, in your opinion, who needs to step up in order to be successful? Obviously, we've heard Nielsen, we've heard Louven. Who, in your opinion, needs to step up in order for us to achieve all the expectations we've said?
I think the one that we might have mentioned it, but the big one for me is we need goals, and I think Klaus and Big Sam are the big 2 that need to step up. At the end of the day, we need to find the ball in the back of the net. We didn't really do that in times we needed, and we kind of got lucky with some of our goals. But someone that we can look to have a goal a game, or not a goal a game, that would be outrageous. But like someone we can look to when we need a goal is something that I think we drastically need this year.
Hey, it's not that wild. Big homie Hoove's doing it right now for St. Louis City on FIFA 24.
Let's go.
He's got something like 40 goals in 30 games, so it's not that too wild. But
and obviously, I said it already, but I think the center back partnership is going to be huge, and whether that is Nielsen or Parker or whoever it is, like we need to figure that out quickly because I think that was something last year that we struggled with was that partnership there and having the chemistry and the spacing and everything to a T.
I know I didn't directly ask Hoove the same question I just asked you, Nick, so I'm kind of going to say what I think you might have said. For me, our wingbacks have to be great in order for us to be successful. Our two wing, and I'm not sitting here trying to put pressure on the newbies, but like we saw last year, just how bad 1v1 defensively we were, how easy we were to get in behind. So there is kind of a ton of pressure on these guys to come in, but I do think if they can come in and be halfway solid, like we instantly become a better team than we were last year. Like without a doubt, instantly.
There just can't be a drop off. There's just there just can't be a drop off. Like they have to be better than what we've seen. And I'm not saying that there won't be, but dude, seriously, Haken's playing in the Europa League against legitimate teams. Would Dyer come from Midtjylland? Also playing in Europa League, playing in highly competitive European football, not obviously the top league, but I knew the name Haken and I knew the name Midtjylland when we bought these guys. They're both young. They're both, Totland more of a starter than Dyer was. But I would say that we match up pretty well against those teams now on paper. So to me, man, there just can't be. I'm with you that they do need to perform, and it's going to be a pretty, hypercritical position from our point of view, just because of what we've seen and how bad it was. So there's going to be a microscope on those guys. No way around it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like you said, can't get worse. Just for the sake of time, let's just do two questions in one and sort of go around with all of us. First question: who are you most excited to watch this year? And then second, who is going to be your St. Louis City Player of the Season? I kind of want to say outside of Berkey, to be honest. I want to say
that was the first person I thought of.
Well, I think that's everybody. So, like, who are you most excited to see this year? And then who's going to be the St. Louis Player of the Season? Hen, let's go with you.
Louven for both. I want to see a healthy season. He was making MVP runs the first half of the season before 100%. He got injured, and I want to see him reach those heights. He's a guy that excites me every time he plays a ball. So he's my answer for both questions, and I can see that happening.
Hoove?
I've got Totland is my most excited. Shocker. Let's be real here. Quality at left back, quality at right back. I don't care where he plays, bro. You can play center back, you can play striker. There's going to be more quality there. So I'm really excited to see him. And, anytime you bring a European cat into an MLS team, there should be some excitement. We paid some money for them. I think there's an expectation level that you have to have for those players. So I'm excited to watch him. I'm excited to see some quality service into the box. I'm excited to see some tiki-taka on the wing. I have to go with Louven, most valuable. There's just no way that his set piece delivery doesn't consistently deliver, that his link up play doesn't consistently deliver, that his ability to strike the ball is probably one of the best on the team. So in terms of general quality and what we're building around, he's the centerpiece. You don't build a team around a keeper. Obviously, your keeper can be a massive part and the captain and a leader in the locker room and is a huge deal. But we're not scoring goals with Roman Berkey. So I definitely think it's Louven in terms of who's going to be the most valuable.
I think Hoove hit it right on the head for most valuable. That was exactly what I would say. I think Louven's the most
just no way he's not. Yeah.
The season. As far as the thing that I'm looking forward to, I kind of already said it. The whole back line, really. Hoove with the wing backs, I agree. Like I'm really interested to see how they play. We're biased, of course, but Yarrow, like I'm pumped to see him play. Parker and Nielsen, like him healthy, watching Nielsen play in that back lineup. I'm super excited to see how they play, and I'm looking forward to watching.
I have two different answers that I'm surprised nobody said. Most excited to see, you guys know, I absolutely love the guy. He's our most dynamic. He's our most dynamic winner. Our young Brazilian 24-year-old Cilio. I need him. I need him to have more of a role. Carnell, I know you won't listen to this, but if you do, if you made it this far in the podcast, play the fucking kid. Play the fucking kid. Play the fucking kid. Every time something happened, even in the Sporting Kansas City games, end of the year, it was through Celio. And I think our player of the season is going to be Klaus. I truthfully do. A healthy Klaus, just think of how for the first half of the season started for him, how many goals he was scoring. If he doesn't get hurt, I don't necessarily see that goal scoring drop off. Now, if he's played with Big Sam, he's not going to be the player of the season. But if he plays alone, I think he has the ability to. Yeah, give me Celio.
I think Andrew Wiebe, one of the MLS commentators on Apple TV, he had him ranked number 5 in his top 5 picks for the Golden Boot this year. So
cool.
I appreciate
that shout. And I think that's where I expect him to finish.
Sure.
I don't necessarily need him to score every goal that we score as a team, but I expect that out of him. It's because of what we've seen. It's because of what he was able to do on the pitch that we were all like, oh yeah, this guy's different. Like first goal he scored in Austin with that, one-on-one breakaway against the keeper, outside the foot touch and finish. I was talking to my dad, who's, worked himself into a pretty solid footy fan. And my dad was even like, I don't think guys are doing that in this league. I was like, bro, I don't think so either, dude. I'm not seeing that finish week in and week out.
Like, I don't know. I've never watched MLS, but
I don't think guys are doing that.
Yeah.
Fellas, now we're finally on to sort of, I guess it's the moment that we've been waiting months for. We can finally actually talk 11s. We can actually talk about a tangible game. We're recording this on Friday. This is either going to come out this weekend. So when we're talking about this, we're 4 days away from the game. City opens up the season on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Actually, all 4 of us are going to be there in the CONCACAF Champions League against the Houston Dynamo. So we're going to try to predict the 11. I feel like these never necessarily go great with Carnell. Nope. But we're going to try to predict the 11, and then I guess give me your thoughts on the game and the result. Whoever wants to dive first, I have not decided on mine in my head, so I'm not going to go first. So whoever wants to go first, go ahead and kick it off.
I've got mine on paper if we're into it. So the thing that I'm confused about and that I'm not 100% confident on is where Tottenham's going to play. I think he was playing left back in preseason. So yeah. My starting 11, and we also had mentioned amongst ourselves that I don't think that we're going to see the dogs this first match. I think we're going to see a lot of rotation through the year just because we probably should. We're in 3 competitions. Carnell has to be pretty careful about minutes and legs. So, but there's also guys that aren't going to not play. I've got Totland on the left, obviously Berkey and net. Totland on the left back. I've got Yarrow and Parker partnering for this one. If you remember, Nielsen went to Europe to secure his green card this last couple of weeks. So he lost a few of those preseason matches. He lost a few training sessions. I don't think that they're going to be comfortable playing him immediately. Whereas Josh is just ride or die and will put in, a shift no matter when or where he plays. So I've got Parker and Yarrow at the center back. I've got Akil Watts right back right now just because of his versatility, of the way that we used him last year, of the way that we used him preseason. He can play that 6. He can play outright. So I've got him in the back line.
Does anyone have a different back line?
Yeah, the only thing that I have is I have Dyer on the left and I have Totland on the right. Okay. And again, don't know, but yeah. I also had Akil at first, and then I crossed him out and put Totland. So
I had the same back line as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Totland plays, no question. I don't know much about Dyer still, to be fair. I don't think Nielsen plays. So that's my back line. And then we're look, lads, we're going to play a diamond, damn it. We're going to play a diamond. The 4-1-2-1-2, the classic. It was great in FIFA 2015. It has not worked as well in real life as it has in the video game. I've got Blom in the 6, mostly out of experience, mostly out of the fact that we're comfortable and know what he's going to do, how he's going to play. I've got more of like a 4-1-3-2, if you so to say. It's going to be narrow. I've got Ostrak, Louven, and AZ as the middle 3. I've got Ostrak playing out a little bit right. Louven in like a deeper 10, more of an 8. If you're going to play 2 strikers, they're obviously both not going to be sitting at the top of the line the whole time, so it kind of eliminates the need for a 10, which, if we go back to Louven's comments at the end of the year, he doesn't love the 10. Guy wants to play both sides of the ball. He wants to get up and down. He wants to find the pass. He doesn't necessarily want to be up in the attack all the time. So they're stuck on Ostrak, still just not sold and or know his specialty or his ability. To be honest, I just never saw it. I didn't get it for sure. But there's a player there. And then AZ's the utility guy who will probably slide in for Louven and play a little bit more of a 10. He'll stay out wide if he needs to. Those three players, to me, can rotate, can kind of combine and switch positions as freely as they see fit. And then, two strikers that I think we're going to run with the entire season, Big Sam and Klaus.
Yeah.
We're not booing Sam, we're booing the combination of both of them playing at the same time. Just clarification.
I think we're going to do a 4-2-2 instead of a 4-1-2-1-2. I think we're going to do a double pivot of Blom and Durkin. I think that those two are going to start as the base, and then we're going to play like a 2 still narrow but a little bit wider. I think Ostrak's going to be on one side, and I think Indy's going to be on the other side. Wow. Louven was in the same boat as Nielsen was of like going over to Europe trying to get his green card. He might very well start because he's the guy.
He's that guy.
I could see him starting against Houston in Houston the following week. But so I think it's Ostrak and Indy, and then Sam and Klaus.
I had the same midfield as you had.
So you guys, I'm just going to say this because I want to say it because I have to say it. If it was me, I'm going Dyer, Yarrow, Parker, Totland. I'm going Blom as a 6. I'm going Louven as an 8. I'm going AZ as a 10. I'm going Cilio out one side, and I'm going Alm on the other, and I'm playing Klaus up top. And that lineup's going to win. But will that work? No, that's not what we're going to do at all.
Well, that's what I was about to say. When I started the podcast, I said there would be a little banter. The lineup we just went through is what I expect. But what do I think?
Yeah. No, I know. I just had to say that I think that this lineup is 1,000 times better.
Who may hate this? I like a back 5. And I would have Nielsen, Parker, Yarrow in the middle 3. I'd have
Dyer and Totland.
Yes, both of them out wide, and then I have Cilio and Jow up top would be and then I'd have a midfield of Blom, Louven, and
Durkin.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't hate that. Like if we're flying, that's great. But if we're just like,
I would like the press. Obviously, when
the back 5 is anti high press. Like
not always,
but. It would fit more. It would make more sense in the way that we can look at it as a back 5, but it would ultimately be a 3-4-2.
Yes.
Like that Totland and Dyer combination. Those guys being up is great, and it sounds like they've got the legs to get back when they need to. Truly out and out right and left midfielder type roles. That doesn't scare me as much as. The back 5 I think we ran once last year, which was Watts, Parker, Yarrow, Hebert, and Nelson. That made me want to stab my eyes out.
I agree.
Completely different situation.
100%. But I think what we've been talking about with these wing backs and them being able to get into the attack and actually have an impact in the final third, I think will be huge for us because I think they're bringing that quality.
And I think our 3 center backs are some of the more consistent or competent players that we have.
Together offset each other perfectly.
Yep, I agree completely.
I do think
convert Hoove to the back 5.
It's a back 3. It's a back 3 with 4 midfielders.
Until Tim Parker gets isolated one single time because the wingback's too high and he gets diced.
Very true.
I do think that Watts is going to play as the right back and like my true back 4. I do think Dyer's going to play as the left back, just because I do think this is one of those games. The crowd's going to be hyped. I think Carnell's going to kind of trust what he knows and sort of ease these newbies into the team.
For sure.
So I can see a combination of Blom and Ostrak. I think if AZ's not in the team, then Carnell drank way too much before the game because AZ, in my opinion, he has to be in the game. Indy's going to play, and then I do think it's going to be Big Sam and Klaus. As much as I genuinely hate it, I think he's going to go with what he knows, and let some of the guys sort of be the impact. I guarantee we're going to be wrong. Probably all of us are going to be wrong, which is fine. But I guess that leads us to what are expectations? Are we winning? Are we tying? Are we losing? What do we think for the first game?
Before we hit that, the one guy that we haven't mentioned that I feel just needs mentioning at this point is AZ. I think if we find if my man has an unreal kind of show-stopping season, like a breakout season or so, we might be dogs. And it can be one player. AZ getting a U.S. men's team call-up, getting a cap was really cool, but I don't think it was for naught. Like, I don't think it was like a pity cap. My man had a really good season. He's young, he's hungry, and he's willing to play wherever and do whatever. So I'm excited to see him. I don't think he's going to be the most exciting player we have this year, and I don't think he's my most exciting player that I want to watch. But if we get an AZ remontada, boys, we might be hot. I don't know.
I don't think he makes it through the summer.
Oh,
I really don't. I think
he gets picked up.
Yeah, somebody in Europe's going to come from.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, no.
I was like dropping him. That's insane.
No. I rate AZ high. There was already rumors in the winter that like European clubs were looking at him. I could definitely see him not making it to the summer. And truthfully, I think he would probably deserve it as well. Like he's one of those guys. I think he would deserve it.
I want to see him do it first, though.
Absolutely.
Give me the season we need.
Who wants to start with game prediction?
I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think we're going to score one goal right before halftime, and then I think Houston's going to be pushing for it in the second half, and we get kind of like a counterattack goal, and it's a 2-0 victory, but it's going to feel like a close game the entire game.
I have 2-1. I don't think our back line has the chemistry yet to pull out a shutout. So I think we'll probably leak a goal, but I definitely see us finding the net twice.
Thinking about my affinity for overs, I'm also going to go 2-1. I think we could see a Tim Parker Louven set piece, and then a direct break from Louven to Big Sam on the run. But I'm with Nick in the sense that it's going to take a while to see that back line really solidify itself. Clean sheets are great. You want clean sheets as a back line. That's literally what you base your career on. We may not see a clean sheet for a little bit, but as long as we score goals, which is what we saw last year, it's like the team I support. Doesn't matter how many goals the other team lets in, as long as you score more than them.
Exactly.
Which I don't necessarily feel is the way that we play or the style that we bring this year. But God, I want to see a Klaus goal, man. I need that. I need that like air to breathe.
Yeah, I'm going to go. We're going to win. One, because I think the first game of the season at home, like I think that's just the key. But I do think it's going to be like 3-2. Truthfully, I think it's going to be like 3-2. This end of the season, most of these back fours aren't solidified. Most of them haven't even been the same throughout preseason. I think both teams are going to concede goals. So I'm going to go 3-2. I think we're going to win. That home field advantage that we've had has meant so much to last year. I think it's going to carry over. First game of the season, the players are going to be able to feed off the crowd. Everybody's going to be buzzing first 15 minutes of the game. They're not even going to be running on running on their own gas. They're going to be running on straight adrenaline off the stadium. So I do think it's 3-2. So you made it this far. I think we're at a little bit over an hour and a half. Thanks for making it this far. I don't know if I don't know if I'd make it this far, but keep a lookout for more city content. This is sort of our first sort of run at first full season with expectations coming into it. I think all of us, myself included, are absolutely jacked up for the season just for City to be back playing. Also jacked up for all the boys to finally be on the same side again. And the banter won't be as high when we talk City, but at least there's some common ground that we can sort of latch onto for a little bit, fellas. So in the meantime, follow us on all our socials, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Make sure to comment on Henry's videos of trying to play a little game of two-touch with St. Louis City. I think we're on
That's all we're trying to do, just playing two-touch.
Might expose
I think we're on. True. I think we're on day 4. But yeah, thanks for making it this far. And cheers, fellas.
Cheers, fellas.
Yeah, lads.